Okay, wild card round is over. And before we go over the games here, we got something that needs to be mentioned here. A certain bet that was made last week.
What in the world was that?
My soul exiting the body.
Yes, yes, Paulo has paid.
I have paid up. You
The
just
hate.
said
Yeah,
I am
I am
dead.
surprised by how well the Texans played in that game.
Oh,
Well,
ye of little faith.
are we
Oh,
jumping into the games? I mean,
Well, we'll
is that
start
the
with
game we're
that
gonna
There's
one.
start with? Yeah, yeah, let's start with that one. Sorry, kids at home, but F you, Rex Ryan. Uh, bye week. Oh, F you, Paulo, as a friend. Suck it. But
get it
let's be
all out.
realistic. Let's be realistic, though. Let's take a step back and say that the only reason other Texans fans, you can be mad, you can hate. The only reason we won is defense. This is the only thing that kept that game from being a blowout,
Yep.
you know, and keeping us in it is defense. Stingley, the secondary, Lassiter, Daniil Hunter, Alshire. The only reason we had any chance of winning that in the first half. The second half, offense stepped up. Stroud stepped up, settled in, even after the season he had. And, they just took care of business at home once again in the 330 wild card spot. So it is what it is.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
not the best game for Herbert.
yeah. I think that was his worst game I've ever seen him play in a playoff game. And I know he hasn't been in too many playoff games, but still, that was rough to look at because it's just. It started at first that they were just going down the field with ease in the first two drives of there in the first half, and then they just got stymied by that Texans defense, as Will mentioned. It was it was just mind-boggling how much they got stuffed the rest of the game.
Yeah.
With the only exception being that one touchdown drive late in the game, but by then it was all said and done, really. So, but Herbert just threw picks after picks after picks. Man, he just had a bad day. He chose the wrong time to be playing so poorly. And to be honest, I thought maybe. Sorry, my cat's trying to get in the video. I thought maybe Stroud would be the one throwing more picks than Herbert. Sorry, Will, but given the season that Stroud has had, but it was a complete opposite. So, and for Texas fans like Will, I'm sure they're very thankful that didn't happen. So, but yeah,
Yeah. I think not only is that his worst playoff appearance for Herbert, that might be the worst. That's a top 3 worst game of his
That's
career.
what I was about to say.
Because when has
yeah,
he ever thrown like 4 picks is unheard of for Justin Herbert. Like no matter how
I
bad
know.
the Chargers have been, like it's not necessarily his fault. Like it's kind of just everything, coaching, personnel. Like there's really not many games that you can look and say, "Wow, he kind of tanked that team a little bit." Um,
Yeah,
and
I
I
agree.
mean, like it's one of those things where like you look back at the last time they were in the playoffs and you think maybe it's coaching. Like it's not necessarily all on Herbert that they got reversed last time they were in the playoffs against the Jaguars, but you could put some of that on him. But now it's starting to look like we just can't trust Herbert in the playoffs. Like 2 in a row is not looking good. Different coach. I thought Harbaugh would turn stuff around, but I don't know.
I
And it's not
think,
like the defense even did anything for him either.
yeah, which is surprising
Like in
because
the
the
first half,
defense is like one of their best things.
yeah, in the
Yeah.
first half, don't get me wrong, like they had, a few plays, a couple sacks, but like for the most part, Houston beat up Houston in the first half and
Yep.
stopped themselves from scoring. Like it wasn't really the defense. Like I'm not discrediting the defense because Bosa did have a sack. I think there was a couple of the game, but it was more so Stroud and I'm going to continue to say it. Bobby Slowick is not the greatest offensive coordinator, and it continues to show week in and week out when we're first down running it, second down screenplay, third and 12 constantly. trying to run it again. Like, unfortunately, those aren't the answers. And Bobby Slowick does week in and week out. So it was more so just shooting ourselves in the foot than anything in the first half, at least. We
Yeah.
saw how the second half went.
With hindsight, like, yeah, the Texans did show up and the Chargers didn't. But like, I still I don't really have any regrets picking the Chargers. My only regret is that I made that bet. But other than that, like, going into that game, the Chargers had the better offense and the better defense. And the Texans hadn't really shown me much of anything since November. But I guess I don't know. Maybe we're turning the page. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's where you're wrong. I do think the Texans have the better defense, even going into this game. Not being biased at all, just like let's being honest. Looking at the season, the Texans do have the better defense, and be honestly, and especially the run game and the secondary in the second half of the season. It was going to come down to offense altogether.
Which
Entering that game on both
that was the
sides.
reason I picked the Chargers, was because y'all's offense is severely hurting with the loss of Tank and Diggs.
Wholeheartedly agree. Trust me. Watched them for 17 weeks. But this is
Yeah.
also isn't the first game that defense has had 3+ interceptions. They did it to Tua, they did it to Goff with 5, and now Herbert with 4. And these are top quarterbacks. You could say top 10, 12 quarterbacks in the league that they're doing that to.
Well, you can say
Yes.
that for some of them.
Who?
I wouldn't say 2 is a top 10. Top 12 is arguable.
That's what I said. Top 10, top 12.
Yeah, well, personally, I wouldn't even put him top 12, but
Yeah,
I
more
agree with
people would.
Goff and Herbert.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right.
No. I mean,
Oh,
it's
boy.
it's an honest argument. That's why it's top 10 or top 12. I didn't say top 5.
Well, let's move on to the next one here. We have the Ravens Steelers. None of us should be surprised at this. I think we all picked the Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was easy.
Went
Easy
about
peasy.
as well as we thought it would.
Yeah.
The Steelers just they're still struggling on offense, and that's just a given. Like, their offense, I would say, improved a lot more than they did the last 2 years, but that offense just it's not going to win you games. It's definitely, well, it won them some games, but it's not going to win you critical games like a playoff game, and it really showed last weekend.
I just don't know what else they need other than maybe a better quarterback. I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
if you think about it, they're in the same situation with the last 4 quarterbacks. So really, like, you do need another offensive weapon of some kind, like either draft a running back or a receiver. But then, like, aside from that, like, what do? Do you just like, you're on your 4th quarterback? Is it a Mike Tomlin issue? Is it?
So
Or
I just want to say, like Chris said, the offense got better. Let's go back to 2022, 9-8, 2023, 10-7, 2024, 10-7. So where did they get better?
I mean,
Like, it is consistent.
I
Yes, they got a
agree.
better quarterback, but it's still consistent, and they're still losing
Well,
first round of playoffs
Well,
once
Okay.
again.
I agree that they
well-
did get better on offense. What kept them in those past few years was their defense. Their defense was an elite defense for the most part. They didn't
Yeah.
have to have a good offense for it.
Yeah, that's
but
where I was trying to make the point. There was that like, their offense was noticeably better this year compared to the last 2 years. That's kind of where I was going at with that point.
I do agree. Like, although the record is similar and the team as a whole hasn't gotten better, I do agree that in the games that they did win, the offense looked like you could credit it for that win. Whereas, like, in years past, like, everyone knew it was the defense's victory, not the offense.
Yeah. But needless to say, this day went to the Ravens, and it was no contest, really. The Ravens just had their way with the Steelers, considering they are division rivals, and they now played each other a whopping 3 times. So, and as the saying goes, it's hard to beat an opponent 3 times, much less 2 times.
Yeah. I don't know what you do if you're the Steelers, honestly, because we've seen the last few years they've made changes, but it still ended up being the same. So what do you do if you don't, like, I think they just need to make a massive overhaul. Like, whether that's just like start trading people, start drafting people, bringing people in. Like you can't just change a couple of different spots and then expect a different result with this team. I don't think like we've seen that happen the last few years and it hasn't worked. Like
So
you got to do something drastic.
So this might be a kind of a controversial take because I've seen some arguments about this subject. But I'm kind of leaning towards that maybe Mike Tomlin shouldn't be there anymore. Sure, he's been their most consistent, winningest coach in Steelers history, but he's let's be honest, he's been there for a long time now. The world of the NFL has changed drastically over the years. What exactly has he put out there other than a really good defense that shows you he has promised to adapt? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like I'm starting to just question: is he good enough for today's NFL compared to what he was back then?
I think he is. I've been seeing this argument a lot lately as well. I think he is still a really good head coach, but I think his time in Pittsburgh should come to an end. Like I think he should just I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should trade Mike Tomlin to another team who needs a head coach because I don't think Steelers fans are, having his back as much as they did. Like as good as he's done in the regular season, they're having winning records, they're making the wild card round like consistently. But I think Steelers fans like they want more. And it doesn't look
Yeah,
like there's light at the end of the tunnel with the way
But can you
things are
blame them
now.
that they want more? But
I
do you blame them for that?
No, I think the Steelers have been good enough to where they believe that they could get further in the playoffs and they just haven't. So
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's time for I think it's time for them to just sit down and be like it's time to part ways. Like we don't want to fire you, but like we could trade you to like another team or something. I just don't know if he's a good fit in Pittsburgh anymore.
yeah. No,
I
I
kind of
think I
agree with
agree with that. I
Paulo
think he's
there.
too comfortable. I think it's just comfortability. Complacency might be the best word. Is they're gonna get by. 9-8. Like I said, they didn't make the playoffs in 22. They made them in 21, 23, and 24. But first exit buys and first exit, wild card, and not by little, like big margins. Like you do
Yeah,
just enough to get into the playoffs, and then just fumble hard. I think that they need help on offense. Their
Yeah.
receivers are their biggest issue because Najee is mid-tier running back. I don't think he's the greatest, but he's not terrible.
Agreed.
But they have Jalen Warren, who's pretty decent as a backup. Freiermuth this year put the team on his back in a lot of these games. But like Pickens, I don't even know who wide receiver 2 is or 3. Like being honest,
Austin's
yeah,
one of
like
them, and then Mike
Speaking of
Williams.
and
Pickens,
George Pickens is just is a sideshow. Like
speaking of
you
Pickens,
know,
did y'all see that? What was it? An interview where they were asking him like, how optimistic is he, or like, are you optimistic for the future of this team? And he's just like,
oh yeah,
nah.
and he just straight up said no, he's not. Like I'm sorry, but Pickens is not the answer either. Maybe if you paired him with a better wide receiver too, maybe, but that's not going to carry you. And it shows year back to back years now, even with Russell Wilson at QB.
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, I really think they need to look at trading a lot of their players for draft picks because they're not going to be able to trade for anyone or sign anyone and then immediately get better and go further in the playoffs. I think they need to start thinking about like in like 2 or 3 years when we draft like some new guys and get some younger guys in here, then I don't know, maybe things will start looking better because I mean, there's really you're kind of stuck right now. You gotta make some moves and move some people out.
yeah. Because I believe the last time the Steelers were like a legit threat in the NFL that made it and won the Super Bowl was 2009. Like not the Saints year because the Saints technically won in
The 8-9
2010.
season, not the 9-10 season.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So it's like that was the last time I saw a really, really good Steelers team. Since then, like they've had some good years after that, but over the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, they just haven't looked that good. And they've had the same coach for so long. Uh I think what Pot says is correct. I think it's there. I think Pittsburgh needs a change. Like Mike Tomlin needs a change of scenery. Let him go to another team. See what he's really made of. Maybe he can like rejuvenate himself. Because I do believe that he's still a good head coach. It's just he's been with that same team for years and years. It's just like I think it's time for him to just move on. So
Yeah.
it's very similar to Bill Belichick. Like he's been with the Patriots for a long time, was so successful, and of course he had Tom Brady at the time. But as soon as Tom Brady left, the next couple years after Tom Brady was gone, the Patriots just were not as scary anymore, and he wasn't as scary. And then the Patriots decided to part ways with Bill Belichick, and now Bill Belichick is now coaching for the North Carolina Tar Heels. That how he does with them will be that'll be TBD at the moment. So, but yeah, it's just in general, all in all, it's probably time to move on.
Yeah. I think there's enough demand for coaches in the league that you might be able to trade Mike Tomlin for a first rounder if you get the right team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And if you could, I would say use that, draft a quarterback with that first rounder.
I agree.
Well, let's move on to game number 3 here from the first one from the Sunday games, which again, I think we all expected this outcome, just not to the extent that it was, where the Bills beat the Broncos 7-31.
Yeah, I thought it'd be closer than what the score indicates. Like when Bo Nix scored the first touchdown on a big throw on the first drive, I was like, okay, this might be a good game. It wasn't
Completely
close.
shut down
It
for the
was
rest of the game.
literally like the Buffalo Bills stood tall, so it was obviously just one big fluke on their end, and they just ran them out the house basically. So
Yeah, Bo was
Yeah,
not having a good time.
I think people were getting a little bit high on the Broncos in the last like month of the season, and then people were kind of, you know, they needed to be reminded that the Bills are still that team in the AFC because, the last week of the season that didn't start Allen and then they lost, and then they had a couple of close games in the like tail end of the season that maybe shouldn't have been as close as they should, but you know, I I'm surprised, but I mean, we are talking about the 7th seed going up against one of if not the best team in football. So, I think that's
yeah,
just, it's it just goes to show like the levels. Like the Bills are still a level above the Broncos.
Yeah.
yeah, easily,
It was
easily.
just a rough day. Like we said, they scored on the first drive, nothing else for the rest of the game.
Yeah, just completely shut down, and the Bills' offense just took over from there. So,
Yeah,
and
there's not
yeah,
much else to say.
yeah, nothing else to say there.
I mean, it's promising for the Broncos. Like if they keep improving, then they legitimately might be a threat to KC.
Yeah, I think if they add more weapons to that offense, because their weapons on offense aren't the best, they were able to get the job done. But I think if you add a couple more receivers, maybe a better running back, because honestly, I can't even tell you who their starting running back was, like because
It's
their running backs weren't
McLaughlin,
that
right?
good. Hmm.
I don't even know if it's Williams or McLaughlin right now.
Yeah, but
Saturday or was that Saturday's game? Yeah,
It was Sunday.
no, Sunday's game. It was Williams because McLaughlin was out.
Mm.
well, anyway, like I said, maybe draft a better running back because honestly, those two don't sound like they're any good to begin with. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I
that's all.
think oh, go ahead.
No, I was done. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say even though they kind of got bounced by the Bills, like it's still a good sign that they made the playoffs, along with the Chargers and the Chiefs, because yeah, I would love that division to be more competitive. I'm tired of the Chiefs just going to the playoffs unopposed, but it still is encouraging because Sean Payton inherited a franchise with nothing going on there, and then they, in his second year now, are like a legitimately good team, even if they're not ready to, you know, tussle
Close the
with the
league
big
out.
boys, but they're right there. And I think another draft, and who knows? Like by the time, like if they get they need another running back, they need another receiver, but other than that, like they're on track to be like a good competitor for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bronco fans have a bright future because I think this is the best the Broncos have been since what Peyton Manning was their quarterback or something like that.
That's what it
It's
looks
been a
like.
hot Yeah, it's been a hot minute for the Broncos. So I'm sure I'm sure Bronco fans were just happy to be there. So
Yeah. Uh, moving on, game number 2 from Sunday. Again, I think we kind of expected the outcome. With what happened in the game, though, we did not expect. Eagles won 22-10 against the Packers. The Packers imploded.
yeah, they just stunk. Like they were just garbage. In fact, I think they swapped cheeses considering they're the Packers. They were the Limburger cheese this time, like the nasty, stinky cheese. It was terrible. Their offense was putrid. Jordan Love couldn't get nothing done. Their defense couldn't stop the Eagles very well. I mean, they held them to 22 points, which isn't terrible, but still, they just couldn't do anything that day. It was just sad.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, we're not really super surprised by the result. It just is kind of surprising that the Packers didn't do all that much on offense. But again, I mean, you're going into this game without Christian Watson, and it's a home game for the Eagles. Um, I don't know. The Eagles have been rolling since like week 6 or 7. Um, so I guess it's not super surprising that the Eagles didn't really let them do all that much, but still, you'd think they would be able to make it a little bit more competitive than it was.
Yeah.
Right, for
It
real.
it was just a complete, like, they just completely fell apart. I don't know, like, what to say.
That's all there really is to it.
I mean,
Yeah.
I said it in the podcast with Christian Watson being out. Jordan Love's hand was still somewhat injured from the week before, where they thought he had broken it. Like I said, it was going to happen. Like they weren't going to do anything against this Eagles defense. I don't think anyone expected them to, honestly.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. Well, last game for Sunday, and this one, I told y'all I thought this was going to be the closest one. And what did I say the night before, Chris? 3 points.
You did say
23
3
20
points.
Washington against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, they should be. That's actually kind of funny because Commanders fans almost had a heart attack with how they got that game-winning field goal because
Yeah, the
it was
doink.
like, yeah, because guess who their kicker was?
Zane Gonzalez.
Zane Gonzalez. Anyway, yeah, he was known for missing 5 field goals against the Saints back in 2018, I believe, when he used to be the Browns kicker. Yeah, it was bad. So when I saw him out there, I was like, oh boy, this ought to be good. Well, he doinks it, and he should thank his lucky stars it doinked in instead of out. So they could have easily had overtime, but that didn't happen. So but for me, I'm so glad the Bucks are out. Cause screw the Bucks. I will take Jaden Daniels and the Commanders any day of my life, and they played pretty well too for the most part. And like Jose said, it was a dogfight from beginning to end, and yeah, that was probably the best game of the entire playoffs. Wild card.
Yep. That's the only one I watched live, and that was a good game to watch. And I will say that
Let me hear it.
I
I want
I
it on receipts.
oh,
Say it.
okay. I will
Okay.
say it. As good as Baker Mayfield has been all year, he's the reason they lost that game. You
Oh
want that
wow.
receipt?
Mm.
That's the
Oh,
one you wanted?
that's not the receipt I
What did
want.
you
You
think
know
he was
what I
Yeah.
gonna
want?
say?
I
I
don't
want
know
the
what he
receipt
thought I
that
was
he
gonna
sent
say.
us. I want the receipt that he sent us the other night.
Oh yeah, Baker
That
is the toughest quarterback in the NFL. He is.
boy shook off Bobby Wagner like he wasn't
Yeah,
nothing.
the way that he runs is unlike anybody else except for maybe Josh Allen.
I
But
was gonna
Baker
say
does
Josh
it.
Allen. Yeah,
But Baker does it not being as big as Josh Allen. So by
yeah,
default,
he's
he's
not.
tougher.
Not as tall as Josh. Close to the same weight, but yeah, when he runs, he runs.
Yeah, Baker, and then
But yes,
Baker also lowers his shoulder and all that. Like he's trying
oh
to
yeah,
hit dudes, and so and then he
yes,
just shakes it off.
but
But
yes, once again, Baker and his fumbles.
nah,
Yes, he
was it his fumble? Did he fumble
it
or
was
was it an
he fumbled.
interception?
Fumble.
He fumbled a couple
fumble,
times.
interception.
Okay,
Yep,
I'm talking
fumble and interception.
the one that was they were just coming out from like their side of the field, and then
Yeah.
he threw that interception or fumbled. Like that's what cost them the game.
Yeah, it was that there was that fumble in the third quarter, about 6 minutes, 5 minutes left in the third, when he went to hand off to Bucky and he fumbled.
Yep, that was the one.
It was just a bad exchange, and
Yep,
you
because
know,
they had just gotten the ball after the Commanders went for it on fourth and didn't get it. So they got a
yep,
lucky break, and then they gave it right back, and then the Commanders got
And
points.
correction, Chris, there was no interception.
Oh, my bad.
It was
yep.
I think
Watch
it
your
was just
mouth.
the one. That was the only
It was just the
turnover of the
fumble.
game.
Yeah,
Was
I'm
just the
pretty
one
sure.
fumble.
Yeah,
But it's one more than the Commanders in that close game,
Yep.
and that'll do it.
and that's literally what cost them the game. You
Yep.
don't fumble there. You drive and kick a field goal, hopefully a touchdown. Your odds of winning are much higher.
Yep.
Maybe you ought to go back to doing State Farm commercials.
I did not enjoy those.
Chris, your team was nowhere near the playoffs. Zip it.
Hey, I don't care. I love seeing
Hey.
the Bucks lose.
Yes,
Um,
I wouldn't have been upset if the Bucks had made it to the next round, but not against the Commanders. I'd rather the Commanders. So
Yeah.
It screwed the Bucks anyway, so I don't care.
But
if the
y'all,
Bucks had played the Eagles, I would have been rooting for the Bucks.
y'all see now though why I didn't know who to pick in this one? Do y'all
No.
finally understand what I was
No.
saying?
No.
No.
You're blind.
Hey, we picked the
Jake
Commanders. The
Miller.
Commanders won. So
Yeah, I was the odd man out. I was happy with being the odd man out, and it showed why. That game was good. I think that was the best game.
It was. It's
You know,
the only one that wasn't a
obviously,
blowout.
the Texans Chargers for me is obviously going to be the best the way it happened, but game wise and coming down to the wire, that's what does it.
yeah.
Well, last one
Now,
from Wild Card Weekend. Let's get this one out of the way. The
It's atrocious
Vikings
game.
completely fell apart.
Sam Darnold, what happened?
He got sacked
Oh my!
like almost 10 times. That's what happened.
Their
9
O-line
times.
was
6 in the first half.
Y'all remember when Sam Darnold said he was seeing ghost for the Jets? I think he was seeing them same ghost again.
Yeah, the ghost of another person blitzing.
Literally, yeah. The funniest, quote, kid you not, the funniest sack that I saw during that game was when one guy grabbed Darnold by his feet, I think, and then here comes this other. I think it was Jared
Oh,
Verse of the Rams,
Jared
where
Verse
he's
comes
like
flying
this,
in. Comes flying in from the right side.
and someone got the right opportunity to get the right picture. And I've just been laughing about it since then. He just looks like he's just pouncing.
Yeah,
It's
Jared
like,
Verse is
oh,
like in the air. WWE moves out here on
was
Sam Darnold
it
literally.
was
from the top
bad.
rope.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
as easy as it would be to blame that loss on Darnold, like 9 sacks, and then also that's just like that just speaks to the amount of pressure that they had on him the whole game. Like he's not free of blame, but also like you can't win like that. You can't.
mm-mm.
No. Well, and let's look at the other side of the ball. The defense gave up 27 points. Where were they? Like
Yeah.
all night. Where were they? Like you're right. It's not just Sam Darnold. The defense didn't do anything. Where was Grenard? Where was Blake Cashman? Where was Grugier Hill that you went and took from the Texans this offseason? Where were they the whole game? Nowhere.
And this is the same Rams team that they technically got cheated out of in a win against them. They lost to them, obviously, but still, they got cheated thanks to the refs who clearly didn't see the face mask from that first game. It's like you played these guys once before. How do you take a massive step backwards and not prepare this time? Like, you know what to expect. How did you? It's like, goodness. This was just an absolute disaster class for the Minnesota Vikings. And I do not like the Vikings for one. I've always hated them because those bums, their fans suck for one. But so it's like this put a smile on my face, but at the same time I was thinking, man, this is way more pathetic than it should be. Like, man.
Yeah, to go over like what happened here. One interception, a fumble that was lost, and 9 sacks allowed by the Vikings.
Yeah.
Insanity. And I thought the Saints O line was bad.
Yeah, I don't know what to do if you're the Vikings, just to focus on O-line in the offseason because everything else is pretty solid. The defense is even solid. It just wasn't this game, but throughout the season it has been. Like, I didn't even think their O-line was that bad this season. It just looked terrible this game.
Just I can't explain it. The fall off between regular season and that game needs to be studied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had a pretty solid defense all year. You were 14-3. I think after that loss to the Lions to end Week 18, I don't think they ever shook it. Like they just absolutely got it handed to them, and just never shook the loss.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see what changes they make before next year because they definitely need to make some.
Options.
But
Let's think about it for a second. Options: extend Darnold or start JJ McCarthy.
Well, they were planning to start JJ anyway before he got hurt, so I'm assuming that's what they're most likely going to do.
well, that has
Assuming after
changed.
the season that just
That has
happened.
changed in recent weeks.
Yeah, think about it. So you just had a 14-3 season with Darnold. Do you extend him based on the season, or do you roll the dice, take your chances, and start essentially a rookie because he didn't start at all this year, didn't play at all, and JJ McCarthy?
I don't know if you can just
Those are your
let
options,
Darnold
though.
walk after what
I
happened
know,
this
I know,
year.
but those are your options. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So as a GM, that's what you're looking at. That's what you're facing.
Yeah. But I don't know. I don't know if like if McCarthy was in this game, it wouldn't have made a difference. Like it's not like quarterback was the issue in this playoff loss. I mean, they definitely need to decide about quarterback, but I don't know what they're gonna do in regards to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're good receivers, good tight end, good running back. It's the O line
Yeah, it's just the line.
essentially. Houston, same issue. Look at
Yeah.
the O line. Like let's address where the real issues are and stop avoiding them.
Yeah, because, and we didn't mention this when we were talking about that game. Houston's O line was terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was bad.
the whole first half was just atrocious.
Just left a wide open lane for somebody to run through and go for Stroud.
Yeah, and no, and then the opposite of that, no running lane.
Exactly.
You let the defensive players in, but you don't let your running back hit a lane. Like, what are we doing here, guys?
Kudos.
All right, let's move on to the division team or the division round here. But I want to point out something that I saw this yesterday. For the NFC, the only team that is returning from last year is the Lions. However, the AFC, it's all the same teams.
Did you see that when I sent it on TikTok the other day?
No.
Who's your daddy?
I'm just
saying.
It's funny though that last year was Texans, Ravens, Bills, Chiefs. And this time it's Texans, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens.
It doesn't matter which way you arrange the names; it's the same 4 teams.
Yeah, but they're going against the
matchups, though.
Yeah, they're going against the teams that they didn't get to face last year.
Yeah.
And it started off Saturday at 3:30 is Texans, Chiefs.
Gala.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna bet on this one. I'm a smart man.
You don't want to go double or nothing on this one?
No. Look, I am realistic to a point. Like, my bad, I'm biased to a point, as Paula likes to say. But man, if
I've never said that, but yes.
You said I'm biased.
Yeah, but I'm not that phrase. I've never used a bias to a point. But you are definitely biased.
Just like any sports fan, the 3 of you.
Nah.
Really, Chris.
Hey.
Don't deny it.
If this game starts anything like this past weekend, I'm not watching past halftime because there's no way. This is a game that you cannot start like that. If you have any hopes of making it close or beating them by 1 to 3 points, if it is feasible, you cannot start the way it started. And unfortunately, it's in KC. It is cold this time of year. Like, it is hard to win in KC. We almost did it a few years back. Unfortunately, Bill O'Brien's a little special and threw that away. But you cannot. That's the game plan. You cannot do that. Like, they have to be planning that. Like, if it starts anything like that, just don't even come out of the tunnel at halftime. Like, just go ahead and throw the white flag because this game is going to get ran up, just like it did last time when we played KC. Like, it's not going to be good. But there's a sliver of hope. It's at the end of the tunnel. It's a light. It could be hope. It could be death.
It could be next season.
Hey, you know what? Got past first round.
My only thing is looking at like what happened at the end of that last game. With Tank going down and the whole team being like super emotional about it afterwards. I wonder if that played a part of it.
Oh yeah,
of how things went.
The whole demeanor.
So my question is,
changes.
If they come out there and they, like you said, Will, they're not just laying down and taking it. If they come out there swinging, could this be a revenge game for Tank?
I don't think so. You're down to Nico, Colton Schultz, and Joe Mixon. And then receiver 2, you got Robert Woods, who is ancient. Xavier Hutchinson. We put Kate Stover on IR once again, so now we've moved up Jared Wayne, who's the receiver that took out Tank Dell. By accident. Yes, by accident. And we released Deontay Johnson because of the same issues he was having in Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Brought him over here and had the same issues, and he got released today. It's gonna be hard. Like, they're gonna have to figure something out. They better hit over here, Louisiana, real quick for some voodoo, and go ahead and take it up to Kansas City.
Yeah.
All right, Will, you remember what we did for LSU and Ole Miss?
Hey, wait a minute. Hold up.
And the refs that are the officiating crew for this week for that game is Patrick Mahomes is 6-0 with that officiating crew is all I'm gonna say.
Yes, that crew.
I'm just gonna go ahead and throw that out there.
Lovely.
Yeah, as much
Man.
as I would love for the Texans to knock off the Chiefs,
Yeah.
it would be a glorious moment to be
Oh.
remembered forever.
It would be an act
but,
of God.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty likely that we're looking at the Texans being a second round exit again.
Yep.
Yeah. And that sucks to say. I think the game we could have done it was the game Tank went out. If Tank doesn't go out, I think our chances to win are in our favor with the way that game was already going. And that was the time, so
Yeah.
Y'all ready for this?
Oh God.
Are you
What?
actually?
I mean obviously I'm still picking Texans. I'm not picking Chiefs. I'm not gonna say those words. But I am realistic.
I'm- oh God, I'm so tempted to do this again.
Chris, I need your good mojo from the Green
Chris,
Bay
it's
game
not a
last
Texans
year.
home game this time.
It's not
I
Take
Texans
that
know.
home game.
excuse.
I
I need
know. I
that Green
know.
Bay magic.
Screw it. I'm doing it. Texans for an upset against KC coming up. I don't know.
Let's go.
It's that gut feeling. It's like I'm getting that gut feeling again that I had last season for the Green Bay Dallas game. Of course, different circumstances, obviously, but I don't know. It's just like I look at this
Yes.
Chiefs team. This Chiefs team has gone away with everything all year. They should have more losses than their record indicates. In fact, most of those losses should have been to bad teams that they kept it close with. And I'm not kidding. Yes, the Texans have their own problems to worry about. Their offense isn't great. Their running game isn't great. Their quarterback play hasn't been great either. But their defense has been the first time I believe, and correct me on this, I believe they kept the Chiefs in check for the most part during their first round against them, right? Am I correct?
The first game this year?
Yes, this
Oh
year.
yeah, it was close.
Yeah.
It was within a touchdown.
And that was at KC, correct?
Yes.
Cool. So with that being said, and I could be wrong, and I'm just gonna say that I'm about 75% certain this could happen, but also 25% certain this may not happen. But I'm channeling my little voodoo magic on the Chiefs right now, and I'm calling it the Texans winning an upset, but only by 3.
I will take it.
Here's what I'll say to that, Chris. Last
Hmm.
time the Texans and the Chiefs played, the Texans were a stronger team and the Chiefs were a weaker team. Both teams the Chiefs have had more players get healthy and get more
Yeah.
stacked since then, and the Texans have had more players go down and get, more weak since then.
Oh, I know.
And another thing is like I hear where you're coming from with like the Chiefs have won a lot of close games that they probably should have lost. What's to say that it's not what's to say that's not going to happen again this week? Like they might.
Hey, look, it's a strong possibility, but as y'all have known, when I have a gut feeling for playoffs, as y'all saw last season,
The
I don't
one
know.
time. Jose, talk some sense, please.
I can't do it, Paulo.
What do you mean you can't do it? You can't
I
do it.
refuse. Even if I know they're gonna win, I refuse.
Yes, we are on the uprise.
I refuse to pick the Chiefs. Screw Patrick Mahomes and his Kermit the Frog voice. Give me the Texans. This is
Let's
a revenge game.
This is why. Okay, this is the same thing.
Don't
The
you
same
start it.
reason why
Don't
I
you
say
start it.
Will is biased is because he deep down in his heart and soul he knows better, but he'll still put on this facade like he believes in the team. Come
Hey.
on now, y'all.
I do believe in my team. It's called being a true fan.
No, being a true fan is about understanding what your team is and rooting for them anyway, not inherently believing that they're gonna win every game.
You have to. You
No,
must
you
believe.
don't.
You must believe.
No, I
Yes.
If you
don't.
believe more, maybe the Saints wouldn't be 5-12.
Ooh.
That would affect it 0 because Chris believes enough for the both of us, and it doesn't work.
Chris believes
Chris
enough
believes
for all
enough.
4 of us.
For all of New Orleans. What do you mean the 4 of you know the whole town?
I just
Be the odd man out, Paulo. It's okay. Just be
I
the odd man
will.
out.
I will be the odd man.
It's like I said, I don't care if the Chiefs win. That it's most likely going to happen. I don't care. I'm not picking them.
And I'm picking them just based off my gut feeling. And I'm 1-0 right now in that category.
See, at least Chris's makes sense.
Yeah, so do mine. It's my team.
Yeah, well, yours makes sense, just not in a makes sense kind of way.
I understand
this, make a
Chris's
wish
gut feeling.
I
thing.
just understand that your picks for the Texans never make sense, so it tracks.
Yep.
I
At least I'm
understand.
true.
I understand Chris's gut feeling with this one. Personally, I think that this team is going to go out here and do their best to come out swinging because they know what happened in the last game against the Chiefs. They want revenge.
See, I think what you're doing is you, in your mind, heart, and soul, want them to win so bad that you're fooling yourself into believing that they have a chance.
Well, anyway, moving on.
Game 2 of Saturday's matchups.
This one, though, I don't have a doubt. This one's going to be the
Hold on, just
Lions.
real quick. This is BS. Give us a dadgum night game eventually. Crap, man. Stop putting us in the 3:30 block. Give us a prime time.
How many prime times have the Texans had?
This year they had, what, 3 or 4? Or 5. They had 4 or 5.
Yeah, weren't like 3 of them
But I'm talking
in
about
like
wild
10
card.
days?
I'm talking about playoffs. Yeah. I'm talking about playoffs though. Like give us some spotlight here.
All right, second game, Washington at the Lions. As much as I love Jaden and the Commanders, this is the Lions in Detroit.
Yeah, this is going to be a... as much I would love to see Jane Daniels move on, it's just... Detroit is a monster to deal with. And honestly, as I say that, considering I've seen a Lions team that has sucked for my entire life. The Lions are beast of the NFC this year, and they're 15-2 for a reason. They got one hell of a coach. They got an amazing offense, an amazing defense. Even while injury plagued to the core, they still win games effectively. And being that they're at their own house, I just don't see a way that the Commanders win it this time. I think the Lions will dominate this one, and I think they win by 7.
I think the Lions win as well. I would love to see either of these teams advance, but I think it's going to be the Lions. But here's my bold prediction for the naysayers. I think this
boy.
game will be closer than the Texans and Chiefs game.
I'll agree with that, honestly.
It's a possibility.
This is about to be I agree as well. I'll agree. No issue there. Because this is about to be Dan Campbell and Dan Quinn going for it on every 4th down, no matter field position. There's not going to be a single punt this whole freaking game. They're going every 4th down possible. They are going to be going for it.
Yeah,
But
I
here's
think
the issue, because some teams have issues coming off of a bye week. Not every team, but we have seen it in the past where the one seed has an issue coming off the bye week for playoffs. So this is where Jared Goff can be all Jared Goff and throw 4 or 5 interceptions, or he can be the Jared Goff that throws 4 touchdowns. So you don't know what you're about to get. But this is going to be one of those games where we're going to see Dan Campbell do some things that are going to be unheard of and unspoken of, and Dan Quinn's going to do the exact same thing just to match him.
yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I would definitely say get your popcorn ready. This is going to be one crazy game. And for the punters on both teams, y'all might as well just go ahead, take a step back, get yourself a drink from the stands. I don't know. Just watch from afar because you're probably not going to be out there anytime soon.
As the rookie Caleb Williams says, you ain't going to do much punting here. So just stay home.
Yeah, literally.
The lie detector
go,
determined
go
that was
spend
a
time with your
lie.
wife and kids.
But this is going to be a good game. I would
Yeah.
like to see the Lions. Either team. Jaden would be great, but I'd like to see Goff make it to that NFC division, that championship game.
Yeah.
Yeah, and personally for me, and I've seen the Lions suffer for so long. It's just so nice to see them be as good as they are now. Because I've never seen a Lions team this good in my entire life. Like the best I've seen them before these last 2 years was like maybe a 6-7 win Lions team, and they usually average 3, 4, 5 wins a season. So like this is like it's a nice change of pace for them, especially for Lions fans. They've suffered long enough. I would love to see them compete in the Super Bowl. But first things first, they got to get past the Commanders, and which I think they would get the job done this weekend.
Yeah. It's going to be Lions, I think. My main point with it, though, is the Commanders' defense, as we know, has made improvements. It's still not great.
Yeah.
And this is a Lions team that has had injuries, but with this bye week, they're getting some of those people back, including Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a shootout, I feel like, if anything.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
I was gonna say.
we just
I was
saw
gonna
what the
say they're-
Commanders did against the Bucks, and it was, although that game was close, it was far from a shootout.
Yeah, but let's be honest, and me being realistic is the Lions are obviously a much better team than the Bucks, though.
I mean, they are, but the Bucks have the most touchdowns since 2023.
This
So
is true.
that speaks to it being a shootout, and it's a defensive game.
Yeah, but like Jose said, and I was gonna bring it up is they're getting players back at the right time. Montgomery's back this week. Anzalone was back last week. Like them having that bye week helped get players back that they needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is gonna be even better than it would have been without them.
Guarantee with those players back out there, this Lions team will look even more scarier than before. That's for certain.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to Sunday's games. At 2:00, we have Rams at the Eagles.
I
I want to
the
take the
Rams
Eagles in
don't
this.
stand a chance.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
say that. I wouldn't say that after what we just saw.
Yeah, but I don't think you're gonna see that same performance that the
Not to
Vikings
that
put up.
level, maybe.
You're not gonna see that out of the Eagles.
Yeah, not to that level. But I think the Rams are going to give them a fight. They're not just going to, roll over.
Oh, for sure. For sure, but it's still the Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Eagles could like just treat them as they did to the Packers and just absolutely dominate them. Or the Rams would just really put up a good fight against them and just lose in the end. I mean, you never know. But the Eagles are just the more superior team in this matchup, clearly. Um, and that's why, like, I'm easily going to pick those guys, and I think they'll win by at least 3. I'm keeping it close because I'm a little suspect of those Rams because the Rams can be feisty, and we've seen last week they just absolutely manhandle the Vikings when all season long you just underestimated them. It's just like
I want to point out though, and I'm looking at this because I thought this game had happened already this year. This was back when the Rams were very injured with receivers. I believe Kupp and Puka were out at this point, and the Eagles won 37-20.
What week was that?
That was, hold on.
If it was prior to week 10, then yes, they were both out.
It doesn't say the week. It was early November, it looks like. Or no, late November.
Okay, that wasn't even that long ago then.
Yeah, I'm sure they had Puka and Cup by then, right?
Maybe
Yeah, they
Cup.
did.
One of them was hurt
Late
for that
November.
game. One of
Yeah,
them was
late
hurt for that
November.
game.
They at least had one.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then then there's nothing really to worry about for the Eagles for
Yeah,
the most part.
that was the Sunday of Thanksgiving week.
Okay, yeah, then both of them were
They
definitely
should have. Yeah, they should have
there.
had both of them.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, Puka 9 for 117, Cup 8 for 60 and a tutty, Tyron
I
Williams
could have
72 yards
sworn.
and a touchdown, Stafford
Yeah.
243 and 2 tutties. Yeah, no, that was just
Yeah, that's what
the
I thought.
Eagles being better.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if it's a
Oh,
similar
this
result this time around.
that's why.
I
This is
agree.
why, Jose. Saquon 26 carries, 255 yards and 2 tutties.
Ooh. Oh, it
That's
was
what that
that
game
game.
was. It was that game.
That game. I forgot about
Oh, and
that.
then on top of it, AJ Brown 109 yards and a touchdown. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
that
that sounds
game.
Yeah,
about right.
that
So
yeah.
no, it's probably gonna go. I'm not gonna necessarily
I
say
was
similar,
mistaken.
but the Eagles are gonna win. You've
Yeah.
already done it once to them.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Yeah.
going to be as high scoring of a game, but I think it's going to be just as definitive of a win for the Eagles because, like, as good as the Rams are, like we saw the Rams dominate both sides of the line of scrimmage against the Vikings. They're gonna get dominated on both of the lines of scrimmage against the Eagles. The Eagles have a superior O line and D line, and you still got, you've got just as good of weapons. I I don't think anything's changed to make this any more. I don't think the Eagles are at any more risk to lose than they were in the regular season.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
All right, last game, and this one is Ravens Bills. And as with the other game, this game's happened before.
Yep. Once again, because there are a lot of games that have happened this season,
Mm-hmm.
And
except the Commanders and Lions. But
this was
Right.
not a good game for the Bills the first time around.
no,
Not at all.
35-10, and that was early in the season. That was September. That was week.
2
That
or
was week
3
4. No, it was week
or
4.
4. Okay.
Yeah, the Bills were 3-1 at the time. The Ravens were 2-2. This was a home game for the Ravens.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
but
was a very bad game for Josh Allen.
Yeah.
yeah, but despite that, I think the Bills would get their revenge this time. And considering they're at home this time around, and and of course they should never underestimate the Ravens. I mean, there's a reason why they're doing so well with Lamar Jackson and of course Derrick Henry. But I believe they don't have Zay Flowers for this game, so that's a big hit to
Which
the
is why they
Ravens
picked up Deontay
offense.
Johnson again.
Makes sense. So with that being said, I'm still putting my faith into the Bills. I think they'll get their bounce back game against this team, but it's going to be close. I'm not expecting this to be any kind of blowout or from either side. I think it's going to be close to the core. It would not surprise me if this goes into overtime potentially, but we'll see how that goes. I'm picking the Bills by 1 point.
I'm also going to pick the Bills. It was atrocious the last time these two teams played. The Bills were, way in over their heads, but I don't know what it is about the Bills. Maybe it's just how the season progressed like since then for both of these teams that I don't feel as good as the Ravens are, I don't feel super strongly like they are going to the Super Bowl or anything. Whereas like the Bills, like I could see them getting past the Ravens, just like I could see them getting past like just about any team. I think it's just what we saw in weeks after that have like given me faith in the Bills against the Ravens. I think they get their revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take it back to this week 4 game. Lamar threw for 2 touchdowns. It was the game Derrick Henry ran for 200 yards and a touchdown. Lamar ran for another one. Like that's big. The issue though, this game is on Sunday. Your low is 14, your high is 27, and it is going to be snowing terribly up there. So this is going to be like you're going to have to run the ball. So I'm not concerned that Lamar's not going to have Zay Flowers because he's not going to do a lot of throwing. Like they're about to rely on Derrick Henry a ton and himself to run. just like last week when he was constantly running the ball. So that's where the Bills have to reciprocate and run the ball as much as they can with James Cook to prevent any misfortunes with an interception or anything to happen.
Yeah.
Like the rest of y'all said, I don't think it's going to be the same as last time. I'm wearing the Bills hat, so who do you think I'm picking? That game, like you said, Will, was in week 4. And those first few weeks, the Bills were doing okay, but they were struggling against some teams they shouldn't have. For example, the Cardinals. Since that game, they have gotten much better. So I'm picking the Bills. It's going to be closer, I think, than it was the first time. It's definitely not going to be, what did I say, 30-something to 10. But I think the Bills are coming out on top. Home field advantage is going to help them out in this one.
Oh, yeah.
And that will wrap it up for the
Pretty
division
much
round.
unanimous. Unanimous.
That's the only
And I
one.
want
The only game was the KC Texans game.
Oh no, we were unanimous about 3 out of the 4.
and I wanted to briefly cover the current coaching interview process. So the Saints have currently interviewed Joe Brady, who ironically was LSU's coordinator during their glory days. Also, they have interviewed or planning on interviewing, unfortunately, Mike McCarthy. I don't know how I feel about
Kill
that
myself, dude. No.
one. Yeah. And they also plan on interviewing Aaron Glenn once he's, of course, done with the playoffs. And I've been told, well, I've been learning that teams who are in the hiring process to hire a new coach can't hire or can't interview candidates who are currently in the playoffs. So they have to wait on those particular candidates. So sadly, no Ben Johnson. Apparently, he made it crystal clear he has no interest in the Saints, which stinks. But I
Don't blame him.
can't say don't blame him. Yeah, but strange. I've been hearing reports that he may end up at the Raiders, which I'm like, good luck.
It's the
So
financial situation, most likely.
yeah. So with that being said, just wanted to give a brief update what's going on with the Saints. They currently haven't hired anybody yet. They're also interviewing Darren Rizzi as well, just because out of common courtesy. But it sounds like he might actually be moving on himself. So, but we'll give y'all an update when we get more information by then.
God, please, not
Anybody,
McCarthy.
anybody but him, please.
Well, that'll wrap it up for this week. We will be back for the championship round